Creed 3 is the follow-up to the 2018 film Creed 2 and stars Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors and was directed by Michael B. Jordan. The film starts off in LA in 2002 with a young Creed and his buddy Damien. Damien is fighting in an underground boxing match and has big aspirations in the boxing world, including Golden Gloves, the Olympics, and then the heavyweight championship. Damien wins his fight easily. In celebration, they stop at a liquor store after the fight, and Creed runs into a guy that used to beat them regularly at the detention center and starts beating the crap out of him. The man's friends run out and pull Creed off and then start beating Creed. Damien intercedes by pulling a gun on the men. Just then, the cops pull up. Creed runs away, and Damien is put away in prison for 18 years. Fast forward to 2017, and Creed is fighting Pretty Ricky Conlon, the guy that beat him in the first movie. Creed wins and unifies the belts and retires as champion. Fast forward a few more years, and Creed is now a successful promoter and is running the Delphi Boxing Academy with his coach, Tony Little Duke Evers, who is the trainer from the first two Creed movies, who is the son of the trainer guy from all the other Rocky movies. Damien is released from prison and meets up with Creed. Damien still has aspirations of becoming champ, but now he is old and has to figure things out and fast. He begs Creed to give him a title shot, and Creed tells him that it doesn't work like that. So then Damien has some guy that he was in prison with break the arm of Victor Drago, the guy from the second movie, who is supposed to be fighting for the championship, which Creed was promoting. They need a last-minute replacement. Well, in steps Damien, which is absolutely ridiculous, but it's a Creed movie, so just go with it. Surprise, surprise, Damien wins the fight, but he is a junkyard dog and dirty as hell, and ends up hurting the other fighter, also someone who Creed promotes. Duke is ticked off at Creed because he told him earlier in the film that Damien shouldn't be in the gym because he was dirty. Creed vouched for him, but Duke said, "He is telling you who he is. Listen to him." Creed then finds a bunch of old letters from Damien that his mom stored away, trying to keep Creed from any more trouble. As he looks at the old letters, a picture of Damien and presumably a friend from prison, which apparently you can take pictures of each other in prison now, who was the same guy that broke Drago's arm. Creed puts two and two together and realizes that Damien orchestrated the whole thing. He confronts Damien. Damien admits that he manipulated him the whole time and says how hard it was being in prison, watching Creed live his life, and said that he is going to take everything from him. They argue a bit, and Damien punches him in the face. After this, Creed's mom dies. Creed then talks with his wife and is like, Damien's not going to stop. And then his wife is like, well, you better make him stop. And he is like, there's only one way he'll get the point. And then she is like, well, you do what you got to do. So then, Creed goes on SportsCenter to announce that he is coming out of retirement to challenge Damien. Damien calls into the live show and starts bad-mouthing Creed. Then, both of the men are like, let's do this. Insert training montages. Honestly, this is always the best part of all of the Rocky Creed movies for me. Growing up in the 80s, I still can't get enough of a good montage. These montages are okay as far as montages go, but I just couldn't get into it, in part because they set up the fight so poorly. I know they had past beef, but what was Creed's motivation for fighting him? To try and reconcile with the demons of his past? Presumably, that was his motivation, but Creed wasn't the one that was wronged. Damien bailed him out and then got busted for it, and Creed never contacted Damien while he was in prison. So why was he so motivated to beat him up? Fast forward to the fight, and as expected, they go back and forth until the final round, and then Creed wins. After the fight, Creed goes into Damien's locker room and is like, it's not your fault. And Damien is like, it's not your fault either. And then Creed is like, if you ever need anything, you just let me know. And then the movie ends. Does this movie pass the man test? Yeah, it's a boxing movie with lots of training montages and a few good one-liners. What about Christian worldview? Is there anything Christians can glean from this movie? Well, this is a tough one. in the sense that many of the themes from the previous two films are played out here as well. However, they seem to lack the same degree of force and grit, like perseverance, overcoming adversity, coming to terms with your past, and so on. Like any good boxing movie, the real fight is always outside of the ring. The one thing that I think we can grab a hold of is coming to terms with our past and learning how to forgive and how to be forgiven. However, I think the movie does a terrible job of drawing this out and developing any real complexity with the characters. They seemingly try with Damien's bitterness and anger fueled by his motivation. The contrast is evident in the fight at the end of the film, with Creed wearing all white and Damien wearing all black. The impression is that Creed has been able to forgive himself and move on, while Damien, fueled by rage, has not. However, they both lack the worldview that enables for true forgiveness and true reconciliation, which is clearly seen at the end of the movie, with neither man actually taking any responsibility for their actions. The theme of forgiveness and reconciliation are certainly biblical. In fact, they are at the very front and center of the gospel of Jesus Christ. God is absolutely holy, and we have rebelled against him and violated his law. We are naturally enemies of God, slaves to sin and imprisoned by guilt. Through the righteous life and sin-atoning death of Jesus, our guilt is removed and our debt is paid. We have been forgiven much, therefore we can forgive much. We can truly be reconciled to one another because we have first been reconciled to God. When our chains are removed, so too the chaff of bitterness that those chains bring. For those with a past, fighting bitterness can be a lifetime battle, but it's a battle that's already been won through Christ, who has given us the victory. I really wanted to like this film. In fact, I went back and watched Rocky Balboa and Creed 1 and 2 before watching this one, so I went into this film eagerly. At first, I was ticked off that Rocky wasn't in it and was tempted to boycott the film because I love Rocky. But after having watched Creed 2 again, it made sense, given how they ended the film with Creed in the ring and Rocky sitting outside, letting Creed have his time. If Creed was really going to be developed as a standalone character, Rocky needed to fade into the shadows, because his character will always be bigger, therefore his absence makes sense. However, I felt like this movie just lacked something. I thought Michael B. Jordan did a good job directing it, and the actors were good, especially Jonathan Majors, but this movie just under-delivered for me at every single point. I felt like it just lacked the grit and the heart of all the other movies. Ironically, a major theme in the other two films was Creed's discovering within himself why he was fighting, which determined his growth as a character and was the hook that captivated me while watching the films. This film had none of that. Because of this, I give this movie a C.